One of the most important examples is the extension by both statute and executive order of access to sacred sites. Take, for example, the first national monument called Devil's Tower, now renamed by administrative actions Bears Lodge. It's interesting that that first monument set back in 1906 was set apart as what might be called a curiosity, a natural curiosity, a volcanic core basically eroded away, but for that volcanic core standing some 100 and more feet in the air. And it had always been a sacred site for about 26 of the Great Plains tribes. Yet it was never seen as much more than natural curiosity and perhaps a recreational stop-up point for tourists until the 1970s and 80s. And then in the 1980s, there was a greater awareness by the public land managers like the National Park Service of what they call TCPs, traditional cultural properties. In fact, that was an idea created by anthropologists within the National Park Service, that there's a certain place-based connection that's specific to cultures and not just a nationwide curiosity called Devil's Tower. And in designating what's called a TCP and later a National Historic Landmark, it recognized a unique spiritual, cultural connection between these 26 tribes and that area. So that resulted in a lawsuit, of course, the economic interests, those folks that guided climbers up that monument during the solstice month of June, challenged the rights of Indians to use that site in a sort of culturally connected way. And ultimately, the 10th Circuit upheld the right of the National Park Service to use voluntary restrictions, make sure that the Indian access is guaranteed. Other even stronger connections exist. The famous Bighorn medicine wheel, some people say it was created 7,500 years ago. Some people say it was created 750 years ago. But nonetheless, it's one of these major sites now protected under the authority of the NHPA, the National Historic Preservation Act, ERFA-related authority that you mentioned already. And that's recognizing sort of this truly spiritual history of America, not one invented by the Pilgrims, not invented by outside parties, but inherent to America, that America has always been, if you will, sacred land. And it provides a certain continuity for all of us, an understanding, whether you're New Age or not, about this reality of America as not merely a commodity or an economic phenomena, but as a social and cultural reality that continues today. And these laws, in a sense, don't create that, they merely confirm it. So I think that's a reality for many Americans, is that they're surprised to learn that long before President Roosevelt took interest in Devil's Tower and created it as a national monument in '06, that it was a vital part of living cultures and histories. Fortunately, the law finally caught up to this living cultural idea, confirmed that in law. Now, some people say, some critics say, perhaps that's not enough, and I would agree. It's a starting point, though. It's a deeper understanding that Americans, both Indians and non-Indians, can have with the phenomena of landscapes, ecologies, wildlife, histories, as part of their connection. You think about history in a more visual and accurate way. Think about before literacy, the ideas of conveying those same sorts of sacred and spiritual symbolisms is the Bayeux Tapestry, talking about the history of the royal houses of France and England. You look at the Bayeux Tapestry when it was basically interrupted during the Norman conquest of England. They had to tear up part of that tapestry and reweave it as now Anglo-Norman, not just in one tradition. Yet this ability of the people to understand how history can continue and how, visually speaking, without reading or writing, you can nonetheless see that as part of your life. And I think for Devil's Tower, it sort of transcends those kinds of efforts to capture just mere words. So I think the laws that protect sacred sites, that reconnect Indian people to the land, that's sort of a pale reflection of what America could be. Not just what America once was, but what if you have this reclamation of these landscapes, these ecosystems, you value the proper functioning of these living relationships, certainly for the people, but also for the wildlife and the ecosystems in their own right. You're going to have a healthier, more effective, stronger America.